recruiting time, everybody. It's Wednesday at 6 p.m. It's recruiting time, especially because Michael Langston's on your screen, everybody. It's the Warchant live recruiting show with Michael Langston. Thanks for being here. We certainly appreciate it. Most of everything here has probably been covered ad nauseum, front to back, top to bottom, over on the warchant.com premium recruiting board. If you're a member of warchant.com, you're probably well aware of all this sort of stuff, but we appreciate you being here and hanging out anyways. Subscribe to warchant.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's totally free. You can do that. What else can they do to show some love, Michael, before we begin?
We love it when you hit the like button. It's a great thing. Helps us keep pushing, promoting all these, great events. Certainly going to cover a lot tonight. There's a lot going on in the month of June. I also have a 10 to watch coming up very soon. I've already completed it. Should be up in the, sometime later this week. So got that coming up. I will handle the chat summary. I'm giving kind of a Matt a night off, so I will handle the chat summary, later tonight. So I will put that together, and I'll also answer all your questions. So definitely hit the like button. There's a lot going on. We got a lot more coming up.
All right. I went onto the PRB. I started writing a list of all these announcement dates because I want to let my hair down and party a little bit on the 4th of July, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to party on the 4th of July, Michael. Looks like 4th of July is going to be a busy work day, but it might be party time for a lot of Florida State fans. That seems like a lot of guys will be making their picks, and I think Florida State fans should expect some good news on that day, or maybe even before then. On July 1st it begins, right, with
right.
Ricky Knight, right?
Right, that's correct. July will be a very busy month for them. I think in the summer I'm expecting around 5 or 7, more additions to this class. That's kind of where things are trending. So there's a lot of decisions coming up. There will be a lot of some decisions that they'll get, some they won't. But I think certainly on that July 4th, I think you should see a few commits coming up.
All right. Let's start off with this one from Michael Todd Johnson. Somebody asked us this on the Wake Up Warchant podcast. We didn't have a good answer. Hopefully you do, Michael. Why are they, that being Florida State, having such a hard time landing a big-time defensive tackle, or have they, and I just don't know about it?
No, I think they haven't landed one from the high school ranks, but they've certainly loaded up on the transfer portal. We've seen Daryl Jackson, Brandon Fiskey. Both of those are highly regarded. I think a big thing is, and it's no secret, Odell's been there for a while, and so everyone doesn't know how long Odell's going to be there. Odell does a phenomenal job. Odell, when they get there, the development is out of this world. I don't think any defensive tackle coach does a better job of developing talent and putting them in the NFL than what Odell does. But that's the seed that's planted within all the different schools that they recruit against, that he's not going to be there through your time at Florida State. So that's hurting them as far as recruiting. I think it also hurts for what they already have there. It's like, when am I going to play? When am I going to play? That's what high school kids want to know. They want to be on the field. They want to get there early, and I think it's hurting them as far as just getting a top-notch elite guy consistently. I think those two things certainly contribute to the factors.
Are recruits telling you that people are putting the idea in their head about Odell's future, or are you hearing from Florida State intel and contacts that they're aware that other coaches in the fraternity are talking that way about Odell?
I would say I've heard it through people around the recruits, and then also people around other programs. That's been going on of playing. And this isn't a new development. This is things that they've been doing the last few years, but for a while. So Odell is not new to this, but I think people are using that, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We've seen obviously they got a really good 4-star last year in KJ Sampson. They've got some talent in there before, but the longer it goes, I mean, this is something that they'll have to deal with. So I don't think they have any trouble going to the portal. That's why I don't really get concerned with. I know people want to see in the headlights like top 10 class, top 5 class, but I don't concern myself too much with it because of what they do in the portal if they don't get one. So I think overall, to me, when I look at the grand scheme of recruiting, yeah, you want the top 10, top 5 classes, but the main thing is your roster. What does your roster look like? What is your holes? Where's your holes? And that's really the key. So as long as FSU keeps getting these guys, I don't think it's a major issue, but it is something eventually down the line that FSU will have to address, which way they go and how long Coach Hagan's going to be able to be there. I mean, he's a legend. He's been doing it for years, and his development speaks for itself. But certainly, that's out there.
I mean, I don't want to beat the dead horse on this, Michael. We got so many other questions, but have they just haven't been in the mix with it? It's not like they've missed out on guys, but are they not even in the mix because of Odell's thing? Because I think those are two separate kind of conversations, right?
Right.
There's one thing if you're swinging and missing, but they really seemingly haven't been swinging at any high-end high school interior lineman.
There's been some, but then when they visit, I mean, they do a good job of the visits. They get here, but I agree with you. There hasn't been a great quantity of top guys. Obviously, there's been some guys that they're on for a while, but then it seems to dissipate for a while. And that kind of leads to my point of people putting stuff in their ear and then bam, it just doesn't work out. And I think also just what their line looks like now, man, it's freaking ridiculous of how good, and chance to play early is certainly FSU. It's going to be tough if you're a top recruit coming in there, but I think most of it is Odell going to be there for my career? I think that's what I hear the most.
Joey Amenta, is JoJo Trader going to be a fight up until signing day, or could you see him deciding before then, Michael?
I think more so, Joey, I think it'll be sometime during the season. I think he wants to evaluate what these teams look like during the season. That's why I think I tend to favor FSU. There's several other reasons, but I tend to favor FSU because of what their product is and also just what they're doing with their receiver room. So I think JoJo's going to look at that. I don't think it's going to go all the way to sign day. I think it will go into the season. I think he wants to see kind of what these products look like. Obviously, if Miami looks like what they looked like last year, I think that's certainly going to hurt them a good amount as far as in this recruitment. Ohio State's also in it, so we know they'll have a good year. So you could see a sense with that, but I think it's going to go into the season.
Okay. Right on. Man, it'd be nice to have him, huh?
Oh,
Real
yeah.
nice to have that guy.
Yeah, 5-star. 4-star now, I guess, was a 5-star. But I think he'd be a tremendous addition for FSU. And certainly he is the guy they're going to find room for. Yeah, I think that's kind of the question when a lot of these receivers, like, we talked about Elijah Moore. That's looking likely. What does that mean for James Madison, another 4-star who's a big receiver that's similar to Elijah? I don't know that yet. So I think the only one I can say, JoJo for sure, and then Jeremiah Smith would be guys that would definitely have a spot at FSU, but certainly adding JoJo. JoJo's the most realistic because I think Jeremiah is probably going to stick with Ohio State, but unless something happens with Brian Hartline, the wide receivers coach, if he gets a head coaching job somewhere, maybe that switches it up. But I think certainly JoJo is one of the more realistic top tier guys that they'll save a spot for.
Let's flip sides of the field. Weldon Taylor asks, any intel on Charles Lester's, visit to Michigan State?
I don't think they're a major factor, Weldon. I think they're in the mix because certainly Mel Tucker has a history of doing well with defensive players, but I think it's going to come down to the teams that have been there for the most part throughout the whole process. And I really like what I'm hearing with FSU with Charles Lester as that July 29th decision date comes closer and closer. Took official visit to FSU on June 16th. I felt great going into that visit, and I feel extremely good coming out of it. I think FSU sits in a really good spot with Lester. So I think with Michigan State, he decided to take a visit there because he had one available and he already canceled the Georgia visit. So he knew that was get all the visits in and get it done before you decide. But I don't think there's any specific intel regarding that Michigan State visit that I've heard, Weldon. So I still feel the same way I do about FSU, that I think when he makes that decision in late July, I think it's very likely it's going to be FSU.
Our guy on the Villages West, Michael, over under 1.5 commitments by July 4th. So I don't know if that includes, again, I've got Jonathan Daniels, Elijah Moore, James Madison, Kylan Fox, perhaps, like all these guys announcing on the 4th of July. So I don't know if we're going to include them or before we get to the 4th of July. Because if we include the 4th of July, then they got to be over, right, Michael?
Yeah, I think it'd be over if we're talking about July 4th. If you're talking about July 3rd, then
Right.
it's kind of iffy. But I think July 4th, yes, I do expect it'd be over. That there will be more than 1.5. I don't know why he puts 1.5. What's it's either
Well,
one or
one or
two.
two. Is it going to be just
Yeah,
one guy or is it going to be maybe two?
yeah. I
So,
think before that I would go one, but I would say the over. If you're talking about July 4th, yeah, I think it's going to be over.
okay. All right. Daquan Kitchings. Can we even get the cornerback Howard on campus, or is he just Florida bound?
He hasn't visited really that many places. He visited Michigan State over the weekend. I think took an official visit there. His officials to FSU and Florida, who I think are mainly the top competition. I think both of them are. The communication is very consistent with FSU. I think he likes FSU a lot. I think the big key here is Surtain, the relationship there. He really likes him. I mean, I hear that a lot with people inside his camp that he's very high on Surtain. So I think both of them are going to take. He's going to take official visits to both of them during the season, and then I think it goes from there.
Is this the correct young man? Is it Jamari Howard he's referring
That's
to?
correct. That's correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure because I don't even
You
see
got it.
Florida on the RPM machine.
They're
So
on there. I mean, and like I said, Florida State and Florida are the teams that I've heard most consistently with that recruitment. Michigan State's not giving up. They're not waving the white flag. They're trying to keep get him back in the fold. But I think for me, I think FSU and Florida and those official visits will really tell us the pecking order once those visits occur.
okay. Moving things along here on the warchant.com live recruiting show with Michael Langston. Quantrell doesn't know, so he's asking you.
Okay.
Lewis Solomon named FSU his leader on his visit, but also did the same when he officially visited South Carolina. Where
Yeah,
is that recruitment leaning?
Yeah, the difference with that Quantrell is like he's visited FSU a lot. So that there's been a lot of ties there, and I checked with people after the visit, intel wise, both around the FSU side, and then I always like to check things close to the player and the recruit, and the feeling was very strong that FSU was the team that is surging, and that is the team that he likes the most. That I think he feels the most comfortable with. You can listen to the way he talks about it, the way he just certain things he says on the visit, just body language and the way he talks about things outside of football that you could tell like uh the comments were very genuine. It wasn't like, hey, I had a really good time. That's my leader. It was a lot of stuff specifically that of giving reasons why. It wasn't just, hey, I had a good time and I really like him. And I think he sees the fit in there. And I think he likes the fact that FSU wants to put him all over the field, not just he could play corner. That's kind of the position he mentioned first, but then he mentioned nickel, kind of some safety stuff. Then he talked about putting him on returns for special teams. So I think they just want this kid on the field. That's the main thing, and I think that pursuit and that pitch really resonated a lot with him throughout the weekend on his official visit. And I think FSU's been the favorite though for me when I've looked at recruitment. Even when he named South Carolina, I still felt good that FSU was the team that had the most consistent recruiting buzz and momentum in that race. So I think that's very legit, Quentron, as far as them being the leader right now.
All right. Garrett PCL asking, are there any late grad transfers we have our eyes on? How many roster spots are left for this year?
I don't know the exact number of roster spots. I would say maybe a few, but I've not heard anything of late grad transfers, and we would hear that by now of visits being set up because this is the time that you would usually see it. But I'm not going to say it's closed out until it's closed. But I know they're keeping an eye on everything, but I don't think there's any movement as far as visits or even major targets yet. I'm going to check on that again tonight when I call a couple of my sources of, when it comes to transfers, I'll hit them up, but I have not heard anything new.
Big D. How do we feel about Kylan Fox?
I feel the same way I did after the visit, which was I think he's going to end up at UCF because he wants to be the number one guy, and I think people around him want him to be the number one guy. People in his camp. So I think if they didn't have a tight end commitment in their class, and especially they didn't have the number one tight end in the country, I think Kylan would be a no. But I think in this day and age with recruiting, that's part of it where that's the stuff FSU was fighting against. Now, I think FSU felt like most of the time throughout this recruitment, like, hey, you know what? We can make the fit work. We got Landon. They're close. They like each other. And I think they try, they're still trying. It ain't over till July 4th until he announces. So I think they're still working on it. But I think it's going to be UCF because of him being the number one guy for that program. I mean, I don't think there's nothing FSU can do except for present the package and fit to why FSU is better for the fit. Outside of that, there's not much else you can do, and I think that's kind of what the negative that they're fighting in that. So I think it's right now, like I said, after the weekend and the recruiting wrap, that it was going to. I think it's likely UCF, and I don't think anything's changed with that.
Man, I got to go back, and I just can't think of like any tight end. I mean, I know they had CJ Uzoma in Auburn, but man, just like tight ends, Gus Malzahn, that's not like peanut butter and jelly. So it's really weird. I think even being number 2 at Florida State might be better than number 1 at UCF. But then again, truly, what do I know? We're here to talk to Michael. People got envy. Stop with the envy about the Gators, everybody. Chill out. Michael Mobley wonders, will FSU flip any of the linebackers verbally committed to Florida currently? I don't know if it works that way, Michael. Like just because they're committed to Florida, they'll maybe come to Florida State. But I see this Miles Graham guy. He goes to the same school as C.J. Hurts, so maybe there's something there. Darius Hayes from Largo, home of Jayon McCluster. We all remember him, and then Jamonte Waller, another guy. Was there ever interest with these? I mean, these guys are from Mississippi, and we got Maryland in the mix. So it's not like these guys are across the street and slip through the radar. It seems like there's a reason they were focused on Florida.
Yeah, Waller visited FSU in the spring. They didn't seem all in with that guy. They didn't even offer, so they didn't push there. Miles Graham is a guy they've certainly been active with. He visited FSU also in the spring, but that's the son of Ernest Graham, who played at Florida, so that's a legacy guy. So I know CJ's working on him, but that's not likely. And then Darius Hayes could be an interesting one because that's one that their FSU recruits that area pretty well. So that's a guy that could probably kick the tires and see what they can do. Maybe get him on for a visit, but he's pretty solid in that commitment. But if I was picking one out of that group, I would go with a Darius. But I will say Miles said he's going to he would like to take some visits. So maybe we'll see. But for me, the most realistic, if you look at that group, for me would be probably Darius.
Okay. Man, this is good. I wish it was always like this. We just got nonstop question after question, and Michael's like right to the point on it. We're just moving on to the next one. Antoine Stone asking, who do you think is the best safety prospect left on the board that's a real legitimate shot?
Whew. Man, that's tough.
I'm that guy from Buford, man. Come on, little KJ Bolden.
KJ's on there. I think they're probably top 3 there, but probably and KJ is going to commit early. But as I told people, that mainly is saying like I like this team the most because he's still going to take official visits. So, but realistic safety, man, I'm trying to think of one. I think I've covered a few of them. I think Jaylus Solomon, you could put him in that safety category. So I'm going to say safety because I think when I watch Solomon, I think he's such a perfect fit for playing that free safety role as far as just the way he sees the field, his instincts, his physicality, the way he plays. So I'm going to say Solomon for me. Obviously, KJ Bone's really high on it. There'll be a few more guys that I cover in the upcoming 10 to watch that I'll do, but Zaquan Patterson outside shot there, but they need to get him back on campus. So that would be those would be the main ones for me at this stage. I don't think there's any guy that's like a can't miss going to be there, and it's tough because there's a lot of these DBs that FSU's recruiting both as safety and corners. They have two guys coming in, Ricky Knight, Kevin Levy, who I think they both have a really good shot with those guys. I think Ricky could certainly play there with his height. He certainly has the range to do it. So I think it's for me. I'd just say Solomon to keep it just brief and straight to the point. So that's who I'd go with.
Earlier we talked about whether they're swinging on big time defensive tackles. Looking at like this top 10 list on the On3, man, like we know they had KJ Bola on campus. We know they want Zaquan. I mean, I feel like people have asked us about Jordan Pride on this show before. I feel like people have asked us about Ricardo Jones before on the show. Brandon Jacob, like these are names that at some point where Florida State was involved in. I mean, have they kind of fallen off the radar, you think, with these guys at this point in the cycle?
Yeah, I think with Jacob, that kind of slipped down the radar as far as what they liked. I think Solomon was a guy they liked a little better. Ricardo, they just could never get. I mean, he's supposed to officially visit FSU, then that got canceled. That just felt like Clemson was just trending ever since he visited there unofficially. And then KJ Bowman, they've certainly been involved there. Jordan Pride was one where the feeling I got was he didn't fit kind of what the culture of what they were doing, or the fit there just didn't feel right. So he was obviously going to end up somewhere else. But for me, it's still Solomon for that safety position. But yes, there's been several guys that they've been involved with, but it just hasn't worked out.
Nick Castagna, do you think we land 2 out of the 4 of the following? Holmes, and that would be Dede Holmes, Pickett, LJ McCray, Artevis Jones. If so, who do you think of those 4? Will they get 2 of the 4?
I think it's likely they get 2 of the 4. If I was picking 2, I would say Holmes. And then I'm kind of split with Pickett or McCray, so it's close with those 2. I think McCray is an FSU, Florida, Georgia battle. I think a big official visit for FSU in October. I think that's really going to determine whether they can nail it, because I think that's going to be a key visit. And then also, I think with Pickett, he's consistently coming back to campus. He's been there like 3 or 4 times now this spring, so there's a lot of buzz with FSU with Pickett. And so for me, I'm kind of split on those 2. I don't know which one I'd pick, but Holmes I would pick. That I think I would, at this stage of where it's at, I would lean towards Holmes and one of those others. Artavius Jones is more of a defensive tackle / defensive end. I think that's probably the wrong Pickett. I think the Pickett you're looking for is Booker Pickett. Okay. By the way,
I saw Booker Pickett on the second one, but he didn't have Florida State on his RPM. So I'm like, well, they're that guy. It's the other one.
Yeah, they're very, very much in that one, despite what that RPM suggests. FSU's very much in that picture. He's going to take an official visit to FSU. He's very high on them. He's liked this staff for a while, so that's a guy that I'm keeping a very strong, close eye on. So yeah, there's a lot of guys. But if I was picking one, I'd pick Holmes and kind of flip a coin with Pickett and McCray. But Artavius Jones is more of a defensive tackle, maybe strong side defensive end type, more so than these other guys that are pure defensive ends. And then with Artavius Jones, I think it just depends on setting the official visit. I haven't heard much lately with his recruitment. I think UCF's very much in the picture there. I think Miami continues to be. I think they are active with him, but until I get more intel of visits being set up, I can't really dive into that one yet.
I just want to say his name, so we're going to go to Chris Cloutier.
Okay.
With the recent targets possibly going elsewhere, the recent targets that have gone elsewhere, and Kylan Fox, do you think Florida State still pulls in a top 10 high school class?
I think they can. I think top 10. It's still so early, guys, and there's going to be a lot of July decisions. And let's just play hypothetical here. It's like, okay, they get Charles Lester, 5-star, bam, in there. 5-star Jonathan Daniels, they get him. That's 2 5-stars. So that's going to give you a big surge. And so then they have a lot of recruits that some recruits that are going to wait in season. Like JoJo Trader, you get that one, bam, yeah. So yeah, I think it's very, very possible to get a top 10 class, but but I'll say this, and this isn't like, oh, I think something's bad with recruiting. It's like, yeah, you want a top 10 class, guys, but in the end, for me, it's about the roster and what your roster looks like. It's like, yeah, you want
The
talented high
portal.
school, yeah,
Got to
yeah,
factor the portal.
you want high school kids, but the portal, people need to start accepting this. The portal is just the biggest part of the recruiting class as getting having a top 10 class. And maybe eventually on three we'll put it together where they put both of these together so you guys can kind of feel what I'm talking about of the type of talent that FSU's bringing in, because I don't think there's anybody that are they're one of the best that is doing what FSU does in the portal. When they need somebody that's elite, they get them in most cases. So I think it's mainly what your roster needs and what your roster looks like. And I've said this before on the board. Do you care about winning more? Or you want a recruiting trophy, recruiting high school trophy, for rankings, for getting guys. So I think it's all about the roster for me. That's why I don't worry so much about high school recruiting. But yeah, I do think it can be a top 10 class. But I also think that people need to get past that it's more than just the high school recruiting now. The portal is just as vital to recruiting, and it's not something that's going away. So if you think it's just a fad and it's going to go, it's not going away. It's a major part of what FSU does. They take guys from the portal because they're plugging in holes of where they need some guy. Lost Makai Pittman. What did they do? They went out and gotten a big time stud in Keon Coleman. What they knew on the defensive line, they went in there, added Fiskey, added Daryl Jackson. What they do at corner, added the number 2 player in the transfer portal in Ventrell Cypress. So they're adding guys, tight end, Jaheim Bell. I could go on of talented top tier guys they're adding. So I wouldn't sweat even if they miss on some high school kids or even some positions that, hey, they should be doing better at. I think you can still fill the void. Now, if this was 3 years ago, they wouldn't be the same luxury. They don't have this luxury, but the portal is really benefited FSU a lot in having a pivot place where they can go in there and get a top tier guy.
Yeah. Take a sip. Hit the thumbs up while we hydrate, everybody.
Telling you.
Hit the thumbs up. We certainly would appreciate it. Tap it, smash it, whatever you want to do. Click on it. Just make sure you hit the thumbs up button. We certainly would appreciate it here. It's a very nice gesture that you can do for us, or gesture.
Yes.
We got a lot more questions. You ready? Let's keep going, Michael, shall we? Let's go to our guy, Ralph, Hawaii. Aloha, guys. How's it? Are our facilities ever a reason you think that maybe some players do not come? A lot of talk about lack of conference money, but do the recruits care about these sort of things?
I mean, I think they get excited about the facilities, but a place like I'll compare it, like a place like Clemson has to have these facilities. If you ever been to Clemson, I've been there. It's very small. Like it's basically the campus and then some pastures.
Yes.
So they needed those facilities to kind of really help their program and get people there to kind of take a look at them. But then when you get there, you're like, hey, place is really awesome, because it is. I've seen it. But a place like FSU, I think it will benefit them heavily, but I don't think it's necessary. For me, Ralph, I think the bigger deal with it is the conference FSU's in. I think they need to get in a better league. I think that hurts them. I think it's hurt them already with some recruits. I think they certainly need to be in a place like the Big Ten or the SEC to really benefit them in the recruiting, because let's face it, the ACC has not been great the last few years. Like Clemson, even Clemson's taken a little bit of a chink to their armor as far as what they're doing. So as a league, I think it hurts them in recruiting with some of these recruits. I hear it often with a lot of them when they talk about the Big Ten, they talk about the SEC. It certainly hurts them.
Yeah. Mark Dorfman, late to the party. Sorry if I missed it. Any word on French?
Yeah, it's Jamie French. He's Mandarin High School, 4-star wide receiver. Same school as Jamel Jones, his quarterback. Mainly down to Alabama, Florida State. He's taking a visit to Alabama late in I want to say June. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I would lean towards Alabama, even though his quarterback is heading to Florida State. But I've also heard some stuff that he is probably going to come on to FSU for another late visit in June, yeah, in June or around that, or maybe even late July. FSU's hosting a July 29th event. It's basically going to be the same elite camp that you guys have seen before that they did earlier this year. That Aslan had great coverage, great video stuff. We had a bunch of talented players there. I think you'll see them have an event there. I think that event it's going to be some top tier guys, mainly underclassmen, and also mainly guys that they worked out at camp that they feel like, hey, we want to see you in the setting, so you go and get other elite guys. So I think certainly if he's at that event, that could shift things. But for now, I would lean a little bit more towards Alabama for French.
Michael, is it even possible to rank all these receivers? There's so, I mean, somebody was asking us also about the unbalanced class. Like, there's not a lot of defensive linemen that they're on right now, seemingly.
Yeah.
But man, there's just receiver after receiver after receiver after receiver. Like, do you know where you think Jamie French fits into what they value at that spot?
Oh, French is phenomenal. I mean, he's one of the best receivers in the entire 2025 class. He is great. I mean, there's receivers are like cheeseburgers from McDonald's. They're just everywhere. So there's so many, and and they develop so quickly, even at a young age. Where compared to defensive linemen, those are rare. Those are hard to find. There's not a ton of them. If you look at it, even the guys that they got on campus, like DeAndre Robinson, even Alex January. I mean, outside of those two, I haven't seen too many on there. So it's really hard to find the defensive tackles consistently. But it definitely receivers has always been there's always a there's always a buffet of receivers every year. That's one of the positions that should be the easiest to recruit because there's so many and there's so many choices. And certainly French, I think ball skills are phenomenal. Good speed in the open field, and I like how he gets in and out of his routes is really excellent. So certainly he's going to be a top tier guy, and certainly why Alabama's on him so hard and trying to push for early commitment. But it's definitely a guy that FSU's constantly got on campus. They're certainly not going to give up, even with this commitment. So to me, I don't focus too much on 2025 guys when they commit because there's such a long cycle to go. I mean, if FSU shows the product on the field and they get even better and say they compete for in the playoffs or win an ACC title, that could really shift a lot of these guys. Even with French, even if French decides to go to Alabama, I could see that shifting with that, knowing his teammate is going to Florida State. So I think people need to keep that in mind when you're talking about these guys that are that young. There's a long ways to go, and we've seen most of these kids make multiple commitments when it comes to their high school careers. So that's something to keep in mind.
Some people hit the like button, which is cool. We ask you to do it. And then other people just drop the bag on you, man. Let's go. It's Ray.
Dollar bills, y'all.
What? Ray Pereira, Pillar, Dungeon Master, some may say. Our guy. Man, we appreciate the heck out of you, Ray. Great to always see you, man. We appreciate you, man. Can't say it enough, and we truly mean it. Hey, Aslan and Michael. Is Elijah Moore really a 4-star since Florida State and Ohio State are very high on him? Go Noles.
Yes.
I feel like Michael, he's got to be the answer. He's going to be that, who do we have that's a 4-star that might be able to get a 5-star? I mean, I know his ranking right now is very low, but man, when you hit that tape and the guys that are in the mix from the schools, like, you speak to it, man. You speak to Elijah Moore. You do it.
Yeah, ball skills, love them. Physicality, love it. And this guy, I mean, I saw him in person several times over the weekend, and he definitely body frame looks the part. Everything on there with his height and weight is very legit. A big body guy that can get separation when you need it. And just I love how he gets out of his routes. Like, he is so good out of his routes. And we've seen this with FSU because they have a lot of small guys, but they don't have a lot of big guys. And this guy's a big, catch radius guy, kind of Kevin Coleman, the stuff he does where he gets body position on players and certainly can just physically overwhelm them. I think that's what Elijah does, and they just love this kid. I mean, they've really pushed hard for him even before the visit, and just a guy that fits what they need because they don't have a lot of big guys like that. They don't have a lot of guys that they have in their class already. Most of them are speedy small guys or really good in the slot and or deep threats. With this guy, he's a guy that you can use a little bit all over the place, and I just love the way he gets off his routes. You can see right there just his quickness of separation off that route, even for a big guy, is very impressive.
I hope they hold on to him, man. I shouldn't say hold on to him. They don't necessarily have him, but man, he's intriguing. It's always fun to see these guys kind of show up late, at least on some of our radars, late in the process, and you just kind of dream about what they could possibly be when you put the tape on and they make plays like that, man. I mean, come on. That's not normal, right? That's not normal, man. Like,
no,
that's
he's
really good coverage, man. One-handed, what?
Yeah, this guy's elite. I like him a lot, and once I saw his name that he was coming, I actually did some research and researched kind of a lot of his, not just these highlights. I want to go over the game film, and it's phenomenal, man. I mean, what they're not showing on these things is his blocking ability. He's very physical, but the thing I love the most is, and people have seen this with these routes already, man, he gets out of those routes so fast. You see the separation immediately, physicality, stiff arming the guy to the ground. So yeah, there's definitely there's a reason they brought him in for the last official visit week in the summer. They wanted to knock it out, nail it down, and they crushed it. And I think they have a really good shot when he announces on July 4th.
That's minute 20 of his 6-minute highlight film where he's like stiff arming a guy like that. Most guys have to put that at the front of their tape, and then it's just them kind of running by guys and being wide open. Some people might be like, well, maybe he's not fast enough. That's why everybody's always in coverage on him. But it's like, even in a small space like that, oh yeah, man, sign me up. I mean, not that I need to convince anybody at home, but
well, you can just see it when people are playing press man on him, the way the separation that he gets, even for a big guy. I mean, this isn't a guy who just goes up for the ball. I mean, he gets off the line fast.
All right, keeping it rolling. But again, Ray, man, you're the dude. You know that. We appreciate the heck out of you. We'll be seeing you soon enough, man. We'll be seeing you soon enough out there. And we'll get another tomahawk to add to your name on this pillar. Promise you. Noles for my life. If the recruiting cycle were to end at the end of July, Michael, who would you see us getting? Who would we still need? Let's focus on the second part of that. So let's say in your mind, Michael, kind of think about who they'll have in July. When the dust settles on July, what do you think they'll still need to add to the class?
I think they definitely need a linebacker. I think they're going to need a safety. I think let's see.
I mean, even Charles Lester committing. I mean, is he more of a cornerback, you think? Is that why you say that?
He's a corner. And then two, I think you're going to need defensive end because even if you get Holmes, you still need another one. So I think there's still places where you need to get those guys. I don't want to sound like this, like there's something wrong with they're doing something wrong, but there's been so little targets at defensive tackle. I'm just preparing myself that they're going to go portal for defensive tackle. So until I hear more names, I can't really. But that's how I'm feeling as far as that position. But the other positions, I think there's some linebackers out there. 4-star linebacker Michael Bojanowski. I might be saying his name wrong. Boganowski. He visited FSU unofficially for 2 days. I think Kansas State. I think Oklahoma is somewhat in there. I think that's a guy that they like. That certainly I think will officially visit FSU. He could decide in the summer, but I think linebacker certainly you want to add a guy, and that's another position where we haven't heard a lot of options. There's Edwin Spillman, but there's also this cat that you just put up there, Boganowski. Outside of that, it's been slim pickings. Now, naturally, I will say this about linebacker. They do have a one that I like a lot, and that's Jaden Parrish out of South Florida. He is a really good one. I think if there's one guy I was going to pick on this class that they already have that's going to boost up in the rankings, I think it's going to be Jaden. Throw that tape in, Aslan, and you will be impressed. Parrish is very talented. That's one that Randy was on very early. I like that pickup. I think this kid is going to be a 4-star when it's all said and done. When more people, more eyes get on him, he's a guy that I like a lot. When I study his film and I watch his film a lot, I think Parrish is a really good find. So I still think they need another linebacker. If they don't get Boganowski, it's going to be hard to see a lot of targets out there, at least right now. But if I was picking positions, I'd say defensive end, linebacker are places that they need, because I think corner and safety, I think those are coming into shape. I think offensive line is definitely coming into shape. As I pointed out on the offensive line, I don't think I think they're mainly gonna put the most focus on 2025. I don't get a sense that they love this 2024 class that's out there. So I think 2025 is where they really want to nail down, because remember, you got a lot of kids that they recruited the past 2 years out of high school they brought in. So I don't think you want to bring in too many guys. And I think offensive line 2025 is the big year that I think they're going to clean up. But I love this Parrish kid, man. Just heat-seeking missile. Just gets in there and just finishes. So he's going to be a great ad, and I think he's going to be a guy that's likely going to be a 4-star as more eyes get on him. He's not afraid. Physicality is certainly good at that, and he's good at reading things and dissecting and just finishing in the play. I'm very high on this guy.
Yeah, that was a really solid display
Yeah.
right there. Our guy out there in Hawaii, Ralph, asking about the calendar. I found the calendar, so I'll pop it up here, but we'll pop his question up. When does the recruitment window shut down?
So you're referring to the portal?
Well, I guess just, the calendar per se. So July, as you see all that red, that's dead period stuff.
Yep.
So on Monday it began. It will run all the way to July 24th.
Right.
I think even the coaching staff will probably be on vacation at some point in July. So
correct. Right in that window,
quote, unquote, shut down, kind of, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah, and you see that window 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29th on July. That's a time where you could see some official visits that are squeezed in there just to get it in, because after that, you go in another dead period. If you scroll farther down in August, I think they go in another dead period. So I think you're going to see a lot of schools, including FSU, try to squeeze some late official visits in there for that weekend of kids that could decide before the season starts. So keep that in mind. But yeah, we're in a dead period. That's kind of where we're at. And until July 25th, it starts back. And then, as I said, FSU's hosting a big event on July 29th, Elite Camp. Basically, the way I was explained to it, Elite Camp / Junior Day. So a lot of visiting, but a lot of going to be some performing and camp stuff.
Dustin wonders, of all the receivers we're going after, who do you feel is the top priority and the one we would want the most?
We've talked about it before. JoJo Trader. Certainly the one I would want the most is Jeremiah Smith, but that's not likely. But JoJo Trader will be the guy that I feel just changes the game. I think another guy I liked, and we talked about him briefly, is James Madison. But as I said, James Madison or Elijah, Moore, who you gonna, which way you gonna go? Because it's hard for me to see you take both of those guys when they're two of the similar same players. So for me, it's JoJo Trader, Dustin. That's the guy that I think they want the most. That's the one they push the hardest for, and so I would go with Trader.
All right. Nick Castagna's back with multiple players in his questions, what he does apparently. If we pull both Daniels and Hilton, do you think we're set at offensive line this cycle, but would still push for Zandamela and Baker?
I think you nailed it, Nick. I think you nailed it. I think those are the two guys. And then after that, yeah, they'll still push for Baker, but FSU's felt from the beginning, from everyone I've talked to, that Baker's going to stay out west. They think he's going to go to the West Coast. Zandamela, I think they're going to still work on, because that's a Florida kid. and that's a kid that they have strong ties to. So don't be surprised if you see FSU get an official visit down the line, especially as the season goes on. They're still going to work on that one. So I would say Xandamela more realistic than the Baker one. I think you could see FSU get an official visit from Baker, but I don't sense that one being like serious, even though he had such high praise. I everything I've got from intel points that he stays on the West Coast. But I think Xandamela is one to still keep an eye on because they're going to still push there. They want centers. Certainly, he is that a pure center, and certainly there's a great relationship there. So I don't think they're going to let up just because he committed to Southern Cal. So that's one I'm going to keep an eye on throughout the season.
Where to go? Where to go to? Let's go to Jaron. He asked a question earlier that didn't pop up. He was like, is there not excitement surrounding the program? And then he followed up a few minutes later. Are recruits thinking that last year was a one-off?
I think there's plenty of excitement, Jaron. I wouldn't dictate the excitement and I get this on the PRB a lot. Like, oh, there's no excitement at FSU because these kids aren't committing right on the visits on June. But it's not about what they that they commit that weekend. It's if they commit overall. And what does it matter if a kid commits in July that officially visits in June? What does it matter? So I think there's going to be some of these guys that officially visit in June that you're going to see that jump on the board that'll be in there. Now I think there's plenty of excitement. I just think I think the other thing is FSU doesn't really push hard when it comes to summer commits. I think there's a few guys that they know it. Hey, it's time to push. We got to get it done. There's a few guys that they've done on that, like Lester, Danzy, a few others that they push like that. But I think overall, FSU takes a very calm approach where we know what our product is. We know what we're going to do. We know what the team's going to look like. We know what we present as a program. And it's up to you to either want to be a part of that or jump on somebody else real quick and be committed to that program. But I think for FSU, there's still plenty of excitement.
I mean, Nick, you're no more Nick. No more Nick. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, like Nick's trying to take over.
Okay.
Shout out to Mr. Badmex24. Texas A&M shows the number one class doesn't mean winning. Exactly, man.
It's the roster, guys. It's always the roster. Like, you need to get this crap out of your mind that it's just high school rankings and high school trophy awards for recruiting. That's great. It helps because you help build talent within your school, but the rosters is what matters. What does your roster look like? Miami had the number 2 recruiting class, I think, last year. FSU killed them by 42 points. Like, it's not going to dramatically affect your team. It's about what the roster is. And apparently Miami has all these players that are great recruits, but I mean, that looked like a high school team playing a middle school team when FSU played them over there. It was like it was FSU probably has tougher games and scrimmages. So my point is, you have to look at the roster and what they're adding to the roster. What does your roster look like? What are your needs? And I think that comes from transfer portal or high school. The guy we're not even talking about. You talk about all these guys. We talked about Keon Coleman. We talked about just these guys are already in the system. We haven't even talked about Hakeem Williams, who's a 5-star. Yeah, that's coming in there. That's my point. It's about what guys you can connect and count on your roster. So it's great to have recruiting classes, but at the same time, it doesn't determine just how good your program is or what your program is or what your product is. So keep that in mind. It's a balance, guys, between transfer portal and high school recruiting. Norvell has it figured out about the portal. Obviously, I think they want to get a little bit better as far as what they're doing product-wise with the high school recruiting. But I think you look at some of the top-tier guys they've already got, like Luke Cromahawk, obviously Landon Thomas. A lot of these guys are very talented players that are in this class. I think there's certainly you want more, but I think some people overemphasize of what high school recruiting is compared to what it is now, and it's different than what it was like 5 years ago.
I mean, if Luke gets his 5th star, they already have Landon Thomas, Jonathan Daniels, maybe a few weeks, like you said, right, Michael? Charles Lester at the end of
Yep.
July. I mean,
Yep.
like that's enough. That's I don't want to say enough, but like that's a very good amount of blue chip talent, and then you know what you're getting out of the portal. So,
I mean,
man,
think
let
about
people in Gainesville brag about winning in June, man.
yeah.
Cool.
Think
Cool.
about that. If Luke gets a 5-star, if you add Lester and Daniels, that's 4 5-stars in a class. I hear a lot of this. Some of these guys that's recruiting, guys. I don't care who you are. I mean, you get 4 or 5-stars in a class. That's kicking butt. So, but I try to implement this often with people that it's a combination of the portal and high school guys. You have to combine them together. So you have to see what products you're bringing in together as a whole because they're one and the same.
And think about those positions, right? You're
Yep.
talking quarterback, you're talking offensive lineman, you're talking a cornerback. I mean, 3 absolutely crucial positions
Exactly.
in football in 2023. So let's keep that in mind.
Yep.
Might need to call him Quantrell Wonders. But yeah, he knows this, so he wants to know your opinion on it. So maybe he doesn't know. He knows. Hey, Langston, have you heard of Marcus Downs from South Carolina? Seems like a sleeper defensive lineman FSU could get in on. The Carolinas always have hidden gems on the lines of scrimmage.
I've heard the name. I don't know a lot about him, Quantrell, but I have heard that name mentioned to a few, different people in the recruiting circle that have mentioned that I need to go check this guy out. So I will definitely look at him. But I have heard of him. I've also heard, that a few times he was going to visit FSU, but that never happened. But I'm going to do a little more research on that one and check it out. I've not heard stuff from my FSU circles like, hey, they're involved, but he's certainly a guy that I have heard, as far as the name popping up.
Well, let's watch a little bit of his film on Huddle, shall we? Looks like he's lined up on the edge here. Good bend, nice spin move. All right, good finish on the quarterback on the sack. All right, let's maybe another 1 or 2 here. Line up on the inside now, Michael. Let's see the first step. Oh,
nice.
Oh,
nice.
Okay. I mean, 57 wasn't a large kid, but still, though, he just knocked him on his keys.
Maybe I need to do more checking on this guy.
All right, Quantrell, we'll give you a finder's fee if this works out. Next Ray Pereira bag drop, we'll cut you in on.
I'll definitely check in on him, Quantrell. I mean, it's a name I've heard, but I haven't really done a lot of study because I haven't heard a lot from my FSU intel on him. But I would definitely check in on him.
All right. How about a little bit back? I guess this maybe kind of echoes what you said earlier in the show about Odell. In Jimbo's days, Joe Parker wonders, it seemed Odell had a pipeline to players in the D.C. area. What happened to that pipeline?
I don't think there's anything happened to the pipeline. I think mainly Coach JP covers a lot of that because he used to coach at Maryland. So he's very good in the DMV area. But I think Odell still does some of that. So I think that plays into it that, JP's handling a lot of that that DMV area, although Odell does go over there to Virginia and Virginia Beach and those areas when there's a prospect that's at his position. But I do think it also plays into what I covered before of prospects, and especially when you're going that far away, moms want to know that, their baby's going to be taken care of and that the coach is going to be there. You don't want to have to get up and then leave and go somewhere else. So kind of fits into that. But to explain, JP kind of does that area now, Joe.
What's really cool is, we got these pillars, we got people that hit the thumbs up, and then we got people that like get involved in the recruiting in the chat on the side of the screen, which, by the way, maybe you want your business's name attached to the chat window that's next to us. You can do that. Reach out to me and we'll make it happen for you. But then you got guys like James B who drop bags and also talk people off the ledge, says, hey guys, sorry I'm late. I had to talk some fans off the edge of that recruiting cliff. And here's $100. Let's go.
I like it. I love it. I love it, James.
What?
Yeah, I had to
change his name. He's the James B now.
Okay.
I
like that. Yeah, I put a post up probably because I got done with camp stuff, and I put a post on the PRB, kind of what he's kind of talking with the edge of the recruiting cliff, and I kind of explained some things like they're doing well, guys. Like, yeah, it's not perfect, but they're doing pretty good. So, and here's why. Here. I mean, people know my concerns. My concerns with defensive tackle recruiting. My concerns with linebacker recruiting. I made it public. People know. But at the same time, they're doing pretty well. If you look top to bottom, who's leaning this way, who they're likely to get. Yeah, there's still stuff that they have to fix. There's still stuff they have to address with this class and positions. But overall, I think they're doing pretty well.
All right, winding things down here. Maybe take another question or two. Go to our guy, Benjamin Tucher. By the way, again, James B. Pillar, greatly appreciated. Subscriber as well to warchant.com. All the boxes checked. 5-star in my book. Benjamin Tucher, he's clarified it to us several times that I don't ever remember. Still love you, though, Ben.
Okay.
Do you see any recruits coming up in the next few cycles that make you think FSU must do everything they can to land them?
I mean, it's so far away when you're talking about next cycles. I've said this from the start of the year. Charles Lester is a must for them. I put that down. I think he's a coveted national recruit. Everyone knows that's the guy they have to get. I said that last year about Hakeem. They got him. I think Charles is the same way as far as a must recruit because of what he is in that locker room and what he does skill-wise, that it really adds a lot to your program. I think Azari Thomas was before that. I felt like that was a guy you got to have in your program that just changes, what you do as far as culture. I'd have to research the 2025. I really haven't studied that, but I'm not going to say do everything. But the guy I like a lot in 2025 is Armando Blunt. Armando Blunt. I want to say, am I saying it right? Armando Blunt. I think that's his name. Defensive lineman out of Miami, I think South Florida area. He's already come out and said FSU's his leader. I think that's a major one. Kind of leads into what we talked about, defensive line. So that would be a big deal. Mom was through the roof the last time he visited earlier this year. She loved it. Blown away. She loved everything. 5-star, everything you can ask for. I think that's the guy for me if I'm picking a player that really do everything you can do to get him. That's the guy. I think he changes your program and a guy that loves FSU. You could tell just being around the players and the program. There was a genuine connection, and I think he's a guy they have a really good shot with. Let's watch some highlights.
Let's watch some highlights indeed, man. I mean,
Let's do it.
I mean, legit. I mean, everybody's got him as a 5-star, and he's like the
Whew.
number. Okay.
Oh my God, that's nice.
Oh wow, he's that fast at his. He's big too. Like, what is he listed at on his huddle? He's listed at 6'3", 254. He's moving like he's 220.
Check mark. I saw the first 2 clips, and I don't need to see anything else when watching this kid. The way he gets off the line, and he finishes. It's a different level.
Odell ain't going anywhere. Odell ain't going anywhere, man. Be sure to come here, man.
Look at that. Look at that burst off the line. Like, my goodness.
Yeah, I think we talked about on the top 10 video that's about to drop. I won't say what player, but Ira was talking about there's certain guys that you just you hope will develop into being a very good college football player, a very productive college football player. Then there's guys that you look at and you think that they should develop into a good NFL player. Like this is that kid that he shows up on your campus.
Yep.
At age 17, you're like, yeah, man. Okay, all we got to do is just stay out of your way. Like, please come here. We're not, we'll stay out of your way. You're going to develop just naturally into being a beast. So, all right, good pick, Michael. Good one to pull out the bag there.
Yep.
We're going to head out, but not before we pay homage to our guy here. Oh, it's too low. It's too low, Aslan. It's way too low.
Been kind enough to grace us with his presence. The Godfather. This is his damn house. He lives there. He sleeps 20 feet away.
In case you're wondering, I still got my DeLuna cup here. I mean, it's got the Wake Up Warchant side of it, but it's got DeLuna on the other side.
I do have my.
Yeah, go.
I was saying I do have mine. Have all my stuff that Ed gave me. Ed, I don't need some hot chocolate right now because it's hot enough as it is. But I love it. You want to send more? I'll take it. Loved meeting Ed in person. Great dude. Just phenomenal person. Um, I can't thank him enough for everything he's done for all the people at Warchant.
Yeah,
Like he's
he's the
done a
man. Guess what? The other day I found I was moving stuff out to make room for like some protein jugs I got, and I saw chocolate covered Chipotle almonds, which sounds ridiculous. I'm sorry, Ed. I'm like, what are you guys thinking? You guys make coffee. And I got a sweet tooth. I'm like, all right, let me check this thing out. I've been rationing myself to like one a night. They're fantastic, man. I don't like I'm not a spicy guy. I do not like spicy foods. But yeah, so imagine how good their coffee is if their chocolate covered almonds are that great. His question though, he's got a question for us actually, Michael.
Okay, good.
We'll turn to our good friend Tom Lang, who spotted this. I didn't notice it live as it was happening. But Ed says a little late as well. I'm sure you've answered about most recruits. Did everyone see Trey Benson's expression earlier today when asked about Destin Hill? I think he likes him. And Tom Lang is like, no audio necessary. Just look at his expression change when Destin Hill's name was brought up today. So let's just look at it. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. So no audio, everybody. Just somebody says the words Destin Hill, and Trey's like, yeah, that kid, yeah. So I agree, Michael. I think that means he likes him.
Yeah, and it's funny you brought up that because it's like I got that same reaction when I talked to people around the FSU contacts that I've talked to, talk about how well he's doing there. Let's just say people are going to like what they see. I think Destin's going to be very special. It's a very special talent, very special receiver, and a great dude. For people, I know there's a lot of people that haven't met him. I have on several occasions, and just a great representative of what Florida State is. But also, I don't think people truly can grasp how good this kid is. I mean, he is very good. It's not usual that I even thought going his freshman year or going the first year that how much was he going to play? And then once I started hearing the stuff I've been hearing, I'm like, okay, my mindset's kind of changed on that. This guy's going to be part of the plan, so he's going to play a lot. So I think he's going to make some sort of impact in there, and I think he's certainly impressing a lot of his teammates and heck of a talent. And I think that's a perfect reaction from Trey Benson based on that's the kind of reactions I got as well.
All right. Awesome. Way to go out on it. We ended with Destin Hill. We got our quota met. We did talk about Destin at some point here. I see Jake in the comments wanting a Wake Up Warchant t-shirt. We don't sell them, Jake, but I don't know. Maybe shoot me an email, aslan@warchant.com. We'll see if we can maybe get one out to you there in Kansas. Oh, Eric Angel at the buzzer. Oh, my goodness. Look at this guy just right at the horn, man. $20. Thank you, Eric. He, too, is a pillar, as is Ed Lemmix from DeLunaCoffee.com. Noles beat LSU by 20 points. Mark it down June 28th, 2023. So,
well,
all right.
if that happens, I'm going to be very busy on that night. So if that does happen, so I think everyone would take that. That's an FSU fan, but great show. Thanks for everybody. Thanks for all the contributions. Ray, JB, I can't remember,
yeah.
James B, Eric, everyone that contributed. We appreciate it so much. We were very humble about all these donations that you guys do free will that out of your kindness of your heart. I appreciate all the questions, man, really good questions this week, and just appreciate everything, and appreciate Josiah in the background doing everything, and then Aslan doing this thing back there helping me out. But great show, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. Again, thanks to Eric Angel. Thanks to Ed. Thanks to James B. Thanks to Ray Pereira. We appreciate the heck out of all you guys. And for Michael, I'm Aslan. Thanks for watching this edition of the Warchant.com live recruiting show. Stay connected to Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.